All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another one of these folding sessions. I'm Kami Kyodai, and today we're going to work on the minimal triangle approach to folding Islamic patterns. Hola, buenos días, tardes, noches, a la hora que sea donde estén. Bienvenidos a otra sesión de dobleces. Soy Kami Kyodai y vamos a hacer el método del triángulo mínimo para hacer patrones islámicos. La idea es hacer algo básico y de ahí construir para afuera. Vamos a intentar hacerlo bilingüe, a ver qué tal nos va. We're going to try and do it bilingual. Let's see how we do. And we just had a little nice conversation on pi and radiance, and I loved it. I had such a good time because it's good to really go back into what you think you know, because you think you know, but you never know. You can never be too sure. It's good. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know, dude. Like, I don't know half the time, but it's good. So, okay, so we're gonna go through the motions regarding the handout that was given out. So if you have the handout handy, that's good. So we're going to build up to, well, I'll show you here on the camera. There we go. So we're pretty much going to build up to these kinds of patterns. So it's like this. And what we want, the concept of Islamic corrugation comes from the fact that we can easily kind of do this compression of the pattern. And if we repeat the process of it on more minimal triangles, we can then make it sort of twirl. You can make sort of a mechanical object, sort of have everything be condensed into a single little folded up structure. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our triangles first, and then we're going to get these, we're going to put this information inside of it, and we're going to play around with it, see how far we go. Okay? Sound good? Exciting? So it's this one and these. And, the more you compound them, you can get shapes like these. Etc. So, okay, we're going to start by getting our minimal triangles. So first off, we're going to get the square minimal triangles. Now, of course, vamos a empezar por hacer el cuadrado. Vamos a sacar los triángulos del cuadrado. Entonces se saca muy fácil dentro de un rectángulo. Pretty easy to get with a rectangle. We just pretty much fold the short the short line to the long line, and that's going to give us the value. I just realized that all this time I've been actually calling the angles pi. I should be saying pi radians. That's the right way of saying it. Now I'm realizing. That's so interesting. It's true. I should be saying pi radians. I really should. Anyway. so funny. Entonces vamos a sacar aquí el cuadrado y luego vamos a dejarlo a un lado en lo que sacamos los triángulos. So there's two things that you can do with this. You can either have, you can cut this up. I recommend that you do, but if you feel confident, you can just leave it like that and just fold on this half. You can just fold your paper like this and just fold everything on this side, and then everything is going to copy. Entonces pueden doblar todo, si se sienten que tienen confianza, si no son principiantes, si están como entendidos en lo que son empalmes y estas cosas, pueden simplemente dejarlo así doblado y así se arma, ¿no? Así funciona. Pero si quieren como también practicar lo que es como el mecanismo sencillo, pues claro, pues córtenlo. Pero ahorita yo lo voy a cortar. I'm going to cut this up in the half, just because, I'm going to show. But, feel free to experiment with this thing. So the instructions will guide us through the pattern, but this session is supposed to explore the idea of playing with the folds as mechanicals. So we're going to work on these two. Entonces aquí voy a poner estos dos patrones, los que tenemos del 8. These are going to be for my 8-fold patterns. So I'm going to put those to the side a little bit for now. And we're going to get the other triangles. So here's how you get the equilateral triangle. So if you have squares, this also works for it, but it's a little different, but it still works. So you can take in the case of a rectangle, en el caso del rectángulo van a tomar la pared corta, the short edge length, and you're going to divide that in half. So you're going to take these 2 points and put them up there. Like this. So now it's folded in half. And now I take this value. I'm thinking like this whole line, and then I'm going to put one of these, I'm going to put one of these vertices to touch on the line. So like this, I'm going to just take this point and just put it on the line and just make sure that the fold is coming in from this corner on the top. You see how it gets spiky? So you can also, I call this a slider. So you can take that point and you can just slide it on the line. You're going to see how it moves, see? So the idea is that you slide it to a certain point where it actually touches on the corner. Entonces esto es lo que ya llamo un deslizador, donde se trata de llevar este valor hacia la línea que doblamos a la mitad. Así. Entonces yo digo que es un deslizador porque puedes tú poner este punto en la línea y deslizar el punto sobre la línea y vas a ver cómo se va moviendo aquí en la esquina opuesta, ¿no? Entonces la idea es que lo vamos deslizando y acomodando hasta el punto en el que esto conecte con la esquina de arriba ya, con esta esquina de acá. Se conecta y ahí da y ahí doblamos. I'm just remembering I should be saying pi radians. I really should. This is going to be my thing, like, from now on. Entonces, now we turn it over. Like, we have that fold. Now we turn it over, and we're going to take the remainder fold, this remainder line. I'm going to put this on the folded line. So just take this and fold it up to there, like so. Entonces vamos a llevar, bueno, empezamos aquí, ¿no? Donde hicimos el deslizador y todo esto. Bueno, volteamos el papel, lo pueden voltear como quieran, pero si se fijan, una de las paredes sigue totalmente, o sea, largas, no se ha movido, y la otra ya está doblada, ya está cortada un poco. Entonces vamos a agarrar la pared doblada y esa la vamos a empatar con la pared que ya está doblada para nosotros aquí. Ahí le ponemos. I think I'm bleeding. Is that blood? I think it is. I caught myself washing a metal plate yesterday. So maybe it's that. Muy bien. So as you can see, we kind of already have our thing going up and down. And so we can just put a line right there, and we get our two triangles. So what I like to do is I can either, fold both of these as mountains, and then just put them together. Entonces lo que yo hago, bueno, necesitamos una línea aquí perpendicular para hacer un rectángulo que tenga estos dos triángulos que necesitamos. Y bueno, podemos luego hacer más triángulos, etcétera. Pero por ahora necesitamos una línea aquí. Entonces lo que yo hago es simplemente tomo esta montaña y las junto. See, the thing I'm thinking about is that Douglas is right. Pi is dimensionless. Like, pi really is like this whole thing. And I should really read up on it. This is my ADD mind, like, we're working against me right now. Not against me, but like with me, just like, hey, you think about that? You should really think about it. You should go. I don't know. I still say ADD when I should be saying ADHD, but. The 90s. Muy bien. Entonces ya que tenemos esta línea aquí del doblez, vamos a extraer este rectángulo. We're going to extract this rectangle off. So we're going to cut this. Now here we have our two triangles that we need. So we're going to cut these two out. So what I'm doing is increasing both waistlines, so as a mountain and the valley, and that's going to weaken the fibers around that line, which is going to make it easier for me to do a single rip on it, and then just slide that rip over. Just keep spreading and dividing and doing it like that. So cool, we have now our triangles. And of course, we're going to get more as we move along the lesson, because one of the points of the lesson is to try and actually do a little challenge of applying one solution to several triangles. So we're going to do one by one. Okay, so first off, we're going to do the simplest one, the classic variation of the eightfold. So I classify them by circle packings, and we're going to get into why that is in a brief moment. So just to sound off, you guys got here yet? You guys got your triangles so far? So good? All right, good. So yeah, in your handout, this should be on the first one. This is the first one. Let me open it up myself, because let's see. All righty. Hey, Shashi, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing good.
That's good. Okay, so we're gonna start with this one. So it says we bisect first this, one of these corners. Step one, we bisect the other corner as well. Entonces vamos a empezar a bisecar. Bisecar quiere decir partir un ángulo a la mitad. Entonces estamos bisecando los dos ángulos de pi sobre 4. Our pi over 4 angles are getting bisected. Just a little fun fact about fractions. So if we had our pi over 4 angle and we half it, then what we do is we multiply this by a half. So then our new angle is going to be pi over 8. So this little angle right there, that's pi over 8, which would be 180 degrees divided by 8. I get confused sometimes with the degrees. I'd rather use radians. Let's see, 180 degrees divided by 4. What is it, like 22.5? It is, isn't it? Yeah, anyway. All right, step 3. Take this point on the edge and put it to the center. That's called the incenter. It's where all the bisections meet. So we're bisecting one of these triangles, one of these corner triangles, bisecting that, meet there. If we bisect it on this line, that would also meet there. Esto se llama no sé cómo se llama en español, en inglés se llama el incentro. Es donde las tres bisecciones de un triángulo conectan en un punto. Ahí hay un círculo, ahí se podría decir. Pero bueno, llevamos este punto donde toca con la pared al punto ese del centro. Lo bonito es de que cuando hacemos eso, el doblez sale exactamente justo aquí en la esquina. So the beautiful thing about this is when we do this, the fold actually originates from the corner, from the right angle corner there. This corner. I'm going to draw in a little right angle, little square there just to mark it. Okay. Yeah, now of course we did fold it. Now we take this corner and we put it up to here. So like this to there. And it's going to happen also, the fold is going to happen right there, right where this line is meeting, which is nice. And then we take that top point and we put it on the same line. So right there, and we do that there. And it should actually match with where your corner is there. So personally, I would rather hold this more accountable. I would rather fold it so that these are touching more than these points are touching. So if it touches, but it's still too far away, I would suggest you push this down. so that it's actually coming in at this point. Entonces aquí estamos llevando ahora este punto a que toque de nuevo, y lo que estoy diciendo es que prefiero yo que el doblez conecte, o sea, que conecte uno con otro, a de que si conecto el punto se quede un poquito más arriba. Yo prefiero de que si ahí lo puse y ahí es donde es, pues entonces yo forzo lo otro a que me haga caso. Porque igual, o sea, por más de que yo le mueva aquí a que es perfecto, o sea, mi papel y yo soy humano y estamos en el mundo real, nada es perfecto, ¿qué le haces? Entonces, bueno, este lo desdoblamos, we unfold that and we just simply bisect on that line. And then that's it in it. So why am I talking about circle packing in this thing? Well, let me pull up my compass. Well, I don't really have to, but we actually need more information for you to see it, but this right here is a circle almost. Like there is this line, there's a star happening here, which we got from the reference. It's happening there, and we have sort of a point of contact. So we could also fold it like that. We can also just fold like this and find where that folds and copy that. There's many ways to do several things. We can also do it like this. And here we're playing around with the mechanics of it, if you will. You can play around with the mountains and the valleys, as you can see. And now the challenge lies on copying this several times, like having this on several triangles. So we have the minimal information. So now it's about, compounding this. How do I make this go deeper? How do I make this a full pattern? Well, there's two ways. You can either make more triangles just like this and just sticky tape them together, almost like just sticky tape these two together and sticky tape another one together. And the mechanics will add up because these lines will connect. So if this thing folds in a certain way, then when it's tied to the others, it will also start to crunch in a certain way. So, all right, here's what I'm going to do. Before we move on, I'm going to repeat this pattern, but I'm going to repeat it on two triangles this time. So I'm going to do it like this. So I have two options right now. I can either, how many triangles would I want? That's the thing about these elementary triangles. They repeat and duplicate quite easily. Entonces ahora lo que voy a hacer es, el ejercicio ahora va a consistir en replicar este patrón, solo que ahora en más triángulos. Entonces ya la pregunta depende de qué tanta resolución le quieres poner a tu patrón, cuántos triángulos quieres que tenga. Entonces aquí ya decidí yo que este va a tener pues mínimo 2 triángulos. So I'm going for at least 2. You can go for more. You can fold this down, go for 4. The more you choose, the more triangles you put into your design, of course, the better it's going to look. But I'm going to leave that up to you. You know what I mean? Now you have 4 triangles. And so on and so on. You can keep repeating this process and, you can get more resolution out of it. But I'm going to focus on, I'm just going to go for 4, just to show you what I mean. So I got to almost be able to see my triangle I'm going to work on. So I'm going to work on this triangle right here. Entonces tengo que poder ver en dónde estoy trabajando. Entonces este es mi triángulo donde voy a estar trabajando. So I need to replicate what I just did, but now apply it to here. And I don't even have to replicate. I can just sort of, as you move along these patterns, you're going to get a feel for them. You're going to realize that it's not about dogmatic rule following. It has more to do with understanding, so you can interpret the patterns on your own and therefore actually have them work for you, not you for them, because they are pretty indifferent, but we aren't. Entonces, una vez que te familiarices con los patrones, la idea es que puedas usarlos a tu favor y que ellos no te usen a ti, ¿no? O sea, ya que los entiendes, no se trata de seguir reglas, sino se trata de usarlos, de entenderlos y que funcionen a tu favor. So here I'm just doing the same lesson we just did, but I'm just focusing on applying it to this triangle, see? Just on this triangle. That's where all my activity is being focused. So this next one goes like there, but I want to like bisect on it, right? So I can either. So once you put information onto a tile, like that, here's, you can do several things. You can, individually do them, or you can fold everything under it. Now everything's underneath, so I can just fold all of the layers at the same time. Or as many as I can, right? I can fold them like some one way, and I can do one as a mountain just so that it's not too crowded. And, I can even do the mechanics on this. Like if I wanted to actually have this be working for me, I can actually fold that all as well. And when I open it, and so on and so forth. And so then I can start to play around with what's a mountain and what's a valley. And for instance, I can like sync this valley and then a mountain. So it's kind of syncs. Aquí, bueno, estoy intentando jugar con las montañas y los valles para sacar una mecánica, ¿no? Porque como estaba todo empalmado, entonces unas cosas se cambian y otras cosas se mantienen, más bien se invierten. Y aquí ya nada más estoy yo modificando estas cosas que ya tengo, la información que ya está ahí, solo acomodándola de una manera un poco más cohesiva, ¿no? O sea, un poco más así corrugable. What's cool about this also is that you can, this is just like the starting point. This is one of the more basic patterns, but it's so much fun. Even like on the basics, it's so much fun. And also just to play around with the mechanics of it, I think that's my favorite part of it. Just to see the different ways it reacts and interacts, and then also to try and put it together, try to make a little composition on it. So many areas that are yet to be explored, which is why I wanted to share these things, these lessons, because I think that a lot of people out there could do a lot of interesting things with it that I can't, and I won't. So that's why it's important to share, because we're all in this together. Now, when we shine together, we shine brighter. And there you see the little mechanics of it. So now we have that this center is like, happening in 8. Sort of like 4 start there in the center. And you see that it twirls. It usually always twirls in this way, kind of like, like this. So it's very strange, very, very interesting. But if I made another one like this, well, also what I can do in order for it not to crunch so much, you can pop it here and just kind of like fold this like this. It's like add a little mountain to it. So then now you have like a little island there, and this can sink underneath. So you respect like that. So now it's a lot more, yeah, it's interesting. So the way that the circle packing would work is that you can picture, if you, where's my compass? I had it here in the morning. Well, you can picture that there's a star here, right? There's a star just like there's a star here. So this star is inside of a circle, and we can fold it and we can see that the stars match. So I can fold on this line, this division, this bisection, and take this point to match on this point. And so I can say that because that happens, that this is inside of a circle. These 1, 2, and 3 points inside of a circle. And here's the same star. I can even fold it to show you that it would be the same star. Like I can fold that like that, and happens to be the same. So there's another star here that goes off in a circle. So there's like a circle here, and the circle here. So there's going to be like 4 circles. It's like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's why I call that a 4-fold circle packing, because it's an arrangement of 4 circles by 4 circles. So it goes on, and then it has a little space in between. And this star that we're using is called the 8-3. So that's a Schlafly symbol notation, and that works thusly. So, you picture a circle, and we're going to choose an n number. N in this case is going to be 8. And n in this case means equidistant points on a circle. So I'm going to write in, you're going to have to imagine there with me, that these points are all equidistant from each other. Like this distance is the same as this distance, the same. They're all the same, equidistant on a circle. Now we're going to choose a k number. K is the jumping number. K is like an addition. If this was a mod, if this was like modular arithmetic, we could say that K is just a sum. So we can say that we start at 0, and K is so if I tell you that the star is 8-3, K is 3. So we start at 0, and then we add 3. So we go 0, 1, 2, and 3, and we write a line. And then from there, we add 3. So 3 plus 3, that's 6. So that goes for 4, 5, 6. So that's there. And then 3 plus 3, that's 9, but we're mod 8. So 9 mod 8, that's 1. So goes to 1. 1 plus 3, that's 4. 4 plus 3, that's 7. 8 is 0. 7 plus 3, that's 10. But 10 mod 8, that's 2. 2 plus 3, that's 5. 5 plus 3, that's 8, which is 0. And so this star is the 8-3 star. And this is the one that we are putting in our circle packing. These are the petals. There's the 8-2 inside of it. And we use the 8-1 inside of that to get a little island. So nice little mechanic, nice little thing. Works well as a corrugation. I recommend, of course, that you go big, go even bigger. And also like try and find different things. So as you make different compositions, more resolute compositions, you're going to find that several things are going to match up. So for instance, if you do this fold, you're going to maybe find like there's some reference there you can use. If you were like folding a square and you wanted like, no, I don't want to fold the minimal triangles. I want to skip all that. And it's like, all right, that's fine. That's all good. Then you can make a composition either by sticky taping it or doing several or whatever. And then try and fold different things. Like try and see if there's a landmark, if there's something that comes up that you can use. So for instance, there's like that point, and this works as my line of reference. So I can, using this approach, I think that you can build up to find more references. So that's the first pattern, the classic 4-fold circle packing with the 8-3 variation. It's a classic. It's very Moorish, very Spanish. You can see this in Spain a lot. Me fui, perdón, otra vez. Bueno, aquí lo que estaba diciendo era acerca de la aritmética modular. Entonces estábamos viendo el caso de las estrellas. Entonces, si tenemos un círculo y les digo que vamos a tener que escoger un número n, en este caso fue 8. Entonces 8 en este caso quiere decir puntos equidistantes en un círculo. Entonces vamos a imaginar que estos 8 puntos que dibujo son equidistantes unos de otros. Bueno, entonces ahora tenemos que escoger un número k. K es el número que vamos a sumarle a nuestro módulo. Entonces aquí esto va a ser como vamos a empezar en 0 a contar y vamos a contar en nuestros puntos. Y pues llega a 7 y se detiene. Entonces cuando es 8 es 0. ¿No? Entonces K empieza a contar en 0 y en este caso yo les digo que estamos haciendo una estrella 8-3. Eso es lo que dice el impreso, ¿no? El documento. Es 8, 3, entonces nuestro 3 aquí, este es el número K. Entonces estamos empezando en 0, entonces 0 más 3, 3, 3 más 3, 6. 6 más 3 es 9, pero en módulo, aquí es pues 9 mod 8, entonces es 1. 1 más 3 es 4, 4 más 3 es 7, 7 más 3 es 10, 10 mod 8 es 2, 2 más 3 es 5, 5 más 3 es 8, que es 0. Y cierra, y esto es nuestra estrella 8, 3. Entonces esto es un empacamiento de círculos de 4, porque hay 4 círculos. Hay un círculo aquí y círculo acá. Y luego, claro, había otro círculo aquí. Entonces hay 4, entonces tenemos un empacamiento de círculos con simetría de 4. Y dentro de cada uno de esos círculos estamos dibujándole esta estrella. Y esta estrella está en contacto con otro. Entonces es importante notar de que en el punto tangente de los círculos, la estrella continúa. Entonces este método para clasificar estrellas y luego combinar esa clasificación de estrellas con empacamiento de círculos es excelente, funciona de maravilla. Y además de eso, luego combinarlo con origami es muy intuitivo porque los dobleces están llenos de congruencias y referencias así simétricas del círculo, etc. Put this aside for now. We're going to move on to the classic threefold one that we have there.
It's completely foldable, collapsible.
Oh, nice. Look at that. That's nice.
Completely flat foldable.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like it does happen like that. Like it allows for a lot of
This
and
is
also
four triangle thing, which you just told.
just like I did, right? Like this one.
Yeah. Completely foldable.
And you know, I kind of like also start to think about maybe using these bases as like for animals, like someone that's more well versed in this. Like you could mold this. I mean, you can shape this and try and like find some way of making this look like something, I guess. But yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Also, you get to see how that point matches. I don't know. It looks like a penguin, maybe. I don't know. You can pull on this, pull on that. I don't know. Maybe fold this to the side there a little bit using that line of symmetry. Have these match up there. I don't know. Have fun. Tie them up. So how are you guys doing? So far, so good? ¿Cómo vamos ahorita? ¿Todo bien? ¿Todo chido? Can you explain again how the 8-3 star appears in a specific pattern? Sure. Okay, so here, I'll draw it up for you. So our particular pattern right now is as though we had a square, let's say. Imagine this. And imagine that we have our circle center there. So we have 4 centers of circles. These 4 points are centers. And so that's a circle, that's a circle, that's a circle, and that's a circle. And they're all meeting at this point. So we can, we can pretend that we actually know where these are going almost. Like we know that these are going to be full circles. And, that's the pattern. It's gonna go on, and then that's gonna be a matching point, and that's gonna go on, and that's gonna continue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, go on. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna be here, that's 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so we write in our 8-3 star. So it goes, that's gonna be like my 0 point, because that's sort of what's inside of visible. So from there it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. Goes off to there, and then this one, 0, 1, 2, 3. Goes off to that one. Then this one, 0, 1, 2, 3. Same thing for your side, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we just keep our intersections. So we just keep this, this, and we can erase these 2 lines, right? And we could continue drawing the star over here, but we don't really need to. So that point there, this half, this. So now also here 8 points, and it goes off. You're going to see how this line actually goes through these 2 points. So if it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, goes to there, and if I also add to there, then it goes off to there. So this is all what Islamic patterns are all about: flow. It's about one line going off into the next and having it make sense. Not all Islamic patterns have this type of flow. There are some patterns that seem to break flow, but they're always like some very clever arrangements. So 0, 1, 2, 3. And these lines all have a perpendicular line on the lines of symmetry, which is also interesting. Like this line is perpendicular to the line that goes between the points that we chose. So we had a line that goes between, and we're talking about like the lines of symmetry. This line is going to be perpendicular to that. Interesting, but I think it's a little bit over our heads at the moment. And so, yeah, does that make sense better? Well, of course, then this line just extends, and this line just extends and matches. And so we get our little like fourfold star there, and we get our 8 3s on the corners. And we see how the 8 3 makes this pattern work. We can replace the 8 3 with an 8 2. You can also see that in our numbers, I wonder if I change the window size, if the recording changes. I don't know. I hope not. I'm moving the window size around just to have all the different tabs on, whatever. But yeah, you can change the A2. So you're going to see how, if we go over the midline, so if we count, I have my 8 points again. So that's n equals 8. And then k, let's say that I make k 5. Because I'm sort of like choosing 5 now just because it's higher than half. So we go like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And wait a minute. So that line is the same as I would have gone 0, 1, 2, 3, like on this side. So the thing is that it does have this mirror symmetry. So if I do a line of symmetry there, I can sort of see that once I cross the mirror line, it repeats. So k is kind of bound. There's a rule for k. K has to be more than half of n. No, less, sorry. K has to be less than half of n. So if n is 8, k has to be less than that. It can be 1. People say that it can't be 1. I say that it can. Why? Because for me, the n is not the polygon. N is the points on the circle. When you read about this, they'll say that n is the polygon. For me, it isn't. For me, it's points on the circle. So k equals 1 is the polygon itself. It kind of goes just like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's me. That's how I see it. Because then you can also write it like, well, like this, like 8/1. Well, 8 over 1, that's equal to 8. So it does make sense to just write the polygons like this. Yes, VJ.
Hi. So if you do 8 bar 5, you would end up with a star with a pentagon in the middle, right?
No. You mean this?
Yeah. So if you do that in a fashion of putting it in a clockwise direction, so if you take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you mark the line, and from there you take the 5 more.
No, here
Then
I'll show you why. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna go again and put in my 8 points, and I'm actually gonna do this time of n5. So n8, sorry, and k equals 5. Let's see how that goes.
Right.
So I'm gonna type in my points again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Start at 0, count to 5. Then 5 plus 5, 10. 10 mod 8, 2. So we go for the remainder of, right? That's what sort of mod does. So we go from there. Wait a minute. Yeah, from here and then from 5 to 2. And then 5 plus 2, that's 7. So it goes up to 7. 7 plus 5, that's 12. 12 mod 8, that's 4. 4 plus 5, that's 9. That's 1. 1 plus 5, that's 6. 6 plus 5, that's 11. Mod 8, that's 3. 3 plus 5, that's 8. It's the same star as the 8 3.
So the premise of k being 5, that should not matter, right? If you're saying
so the
k
thing
should
is that after we cross the number in the middle, it repeats. So after we cross, for instance, in this case would be 4, we start counting back. So k5 is going to be the same. So we can say it as 8. We use brackets like this. So 8 5 is the same as 8 3. It even like if we write down the mods, like the solution for this, we kind of see the same points appear. That's actually kind of interesting. Let's do that real quick. Do a little list. It's going to be all mod 8, of course.
You can use -3 instead of 5 and it still works.
Sorry, you're
So
cutting
it's
off.
just like doing the 3 circle, but in the other direction, like in like 8-3. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if it's just for me, but you were cutting off real bad. I couldn't understand. Oh. Are you there?
I can't really see. Oh, okay.
So let's see, we have 0, and then you can see that even like the sequence of numbers is the same. So it kind of goes 0, 3, 6, 1, 4, 7, 2, 5. We count from 0, we start from 0, we count down 0, 3, 6, 1, 4, 7, 2, 5. So same sequence. So K5 and K3, and they are the same sequence. So after we go the middle, these sequences repeat. Si n puede ser cualquier punto cualquier número de puntos en el círculo.
Polygon that is coming in the center. Is
Sorry?
that a pentagon? Is that a pentagon coming?
No, that's not a pentagon. No, the pentagon doesn't appear here. I mean, because all of these star lines, we can actually have a little formula to get the angles that are working on. And none of these pertain to the pentagon. The pentagon appears in the 5 or 10-fold symmetry. I will tell you this though, in places like Egypt and India, they will have patterns that have 4-fold and 5 and 8-fold symmetry like this. But instead of using these angles, they'll use 5-fold symmetry angles. They'll actually like include, like instead of this angle being the angle for this star, they'll change it up and they'll actually allow for a pentagon, a regular pentagon to be here. They will do that. I don't know why, but it's so cool, but they do that. In Egypt more than anything, but that is a thing. But that's like a creative thing. It's not a math thing.
And my next question is, what if you change the number of points from 8 to 9 or to an odd number? So is it necessary that it has to be an even number?
No. I mean, both of them have different like things. I mean, stars start at 5, so 5 is an odd number. So I guess it's a good place as any for an example. So what would be so if n equals 5 here, what would k be? Being that the rule apparently is that k has to be less than half of how many sides it has. So what's the half of 5? Well, it's 2.5. Well, is there a number that's less than 2.5? A whole number that's less than 2.5? It doesn't have to be a whole number specifically. That's not a rule. But for the basics, we gotta like pretend.
What if k is 2?
Exactly. So we go 0, 1, 2, and then 2 plus 2, that's 4. And then 4 plus 2, that's 6. Mod 5, that's 1. 1 plus 2, that's 3. 3 plus 2, that's 5. 0. Mod 5, that's 0. So this is the first star that appears. The pentagram, that's the first one. In 4, we can't do this. In 4, there's no star. I mean, there's no regular star. There's a way to get a star, but that's kind of like a tricky business. Because technically, this is a 4-fold star. But it's, it's a tricky business. It's interesting. So 4 doesn't have a star because, well, if n equals 4, what's k? K has to be less than half of n. Well,
it has to be less or equal to half.
Well, if it's half, then it's just going to be,
yeah.
So not a very interesting star. So this is the first star, and there's two types of stars. There's the compounds and the star polygon. So this is a star polygon. I don't think, well, yeah, we're gonna build up to it, but there's like a formula to get this angle. So I think that's, well, I'll just write it down and we can look at it as we move towards, but this is the formula. N minus 2k times pi over n. So that's the formula to get this angle of any star. So that's a nice little formula. So let's go over. Entonces vamos a ver el caso del 6. Vamos a hacer este en español. Vamos a ver el caso del 6. Entonces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 y 6. Entonces aquí n es igual a 6 y k tiene que ser menos de la mitad de n. Entonces si n es 6, tiene que ser menos de 6, menos de 3. Menos de 3, ¿qué tenemos? 2 y 1. 1 es el polígono en sí. Entonces tenemos 2. Entonces va 2. So we're going to do the case for the first compound polygon. Entonces we start 0. Entonces nos dan 0. 0 más 2, 2. 2 más 2 es 4. 4 y 2 son 6. La cancioncita, ¿no? Y cierra. Here's la cosa interesante. Cierra. That's the interesting thing of this sequence. It closes. So when k and n have a common factor, they actually close. That's interesting. Because then that's sort of how you find star polygons. If these two numbers have a common factor, they will close. So we have to finish this. Tenemos que terminar ese sistema. Entonces ahora empezamos a contar en el vértice que sigue. Empezamos en 1. 1 más 2, 3. 3 más 2, 5. 5 más 2, 7, que es 1 en mod 6. Y tenemos el hexagrama, nuestro primer polígono compuesto. Entonces este es uno compuesto, en inglés compound, que quiere decir compuesto. Y este lo podemos escribir como ya sea 6, 2, o también podemos, ya que que esto es una fracción y pues podemos simplificar la fracción. La manera que se simplifican las estrellas es de que tomamos el denominador y lo sacamos del bracket y dejamos el resultado de la fracción adentro. Entonces esto lo escribimos como que 2 brackets 3. Porque 6 sobre 2 es 3. Ponemos el 2 afuera para mantener equivalente la cosa. O sea, 2 por 3 es 6. O sea, sí está ahí. O sea, está ahí sucediendo. Entonces, 2 triángulos. Y aquí es lo que está pasando. Un triángulo, 2 triángulos. So, yeah, we can simplify, because these two have a common factor, we can take this fraction and simplify it. So 6 over 2, that's 3. And we take the denominator and we put it outside of the brackets to indicate like amount. So we have 2 triangles. And this is what this is made out of, 2 triangles. So this is a 6-2 or the 2-3, depending on how you want to call it. But yeah, this is just helpful to think of this being 2 triangles. This is a symbol of marriage, of unity, and man and woman coming together, the heaven and earth kind of thing. It's a very ancient symbol. And the pentagram is more like a health symbol, life symbol. I forget where I read this. Don't quote me on it, but I read it somewhere or heard it in a podcast, which is why I doubt it. But I remember that somebody said that human beings have this tendency for 5, not only in our symmetry of our fingers. So there was this plastic surgeon who was looking at somebody who had buckshot in their hand. Like they were hunting for goose or ducks or something, and they shot the buckshot into their hand. So they went to the doctor and they had the hand in the x-ray. And the doctor was just looking at the points on the hand of the buckshot, or not the buckshot, buckshot, like bird shot, like shotgun, just pellets. And so he started tripping on it, like, oh, that's interesting. It looks good. And so he found out that, there's actually the golden ratio in our hands. So 5ness is very much in us. We have like 5 fingers. And the thing I was going to say is that fruits that comes from flowers with 5 petals, they're usually edible to humans, which I think is interesting. And you think about apples, 5-fold petals, 5-fold flowers, pears, peppers, lemons, strawberries, what else? Tomatoes, coffee. All of these have 5-fold flowers. So 5 is pretty powerful 5, and especially to human beings and whatnot. All right, so any other questions regarding this before we move on to the next? Vijay, you have your hand raised. Oh, I guess not anymore.
Yeah, so I have a question.
Yes.
So the way we put the 8 3 star on the square, we can also rotate it, right, at different angles. So that will also give you different patterns. So in this, the like 2 of the points are aligned with the edges, but you can kind of rotate it by half so that you have, instead of these 3 corners, you can have 2 corners.
So are you saying like in this pattern that it's shown here, like this one? You're talking like,
Yeah.
these points, like
So-
so instead of having the point
Yeah.
here, having the point here, like the star be on this line instead of this line?
Or not necessarily there, but anywhere else at any other angle.
I mean,
It would have to be between those two.
yes and no. Yes and no, because this is like very much like inside of this circle packing. So what you were saying would be like to change up the flow. So
Okay.
if we rotate it in such a way, then these points are not going to flow anymore onto the next one. You know what I mean? Like if we kind of turn it so that the points are not touching anymore, then it stops flowing in a way.
But are there any angles at which it will work?
Yes, actually.
Are there any angles at which it?
Well, we can, instead of using the 8-3, we can use the 8-2. So for instance, if we were to use the 8-2, I'm going to write in here.
No, but that would be a completely different pattern, right?
Yes, that's what the one that's famously called the breath of the compassionate.
I mean,
It's kind of goes like this.
what
So,
I'm asking is if you can rotate the 8-3 at another angle in which it will also tessellate correctly.
I mean, yes.
So-
I mean, but I wouldn't say that rotating it though. I wouldn't say I mean, you can find different circle packings, or you can find different solutions for arranging the 8-3. I mean, you can do it like that, because then there's also patterns that have petals. So it's not always just about star with star. Sometimes it's star and another component and another component and then another star. So take for instance this one. So here I have an 8-3 here at the corner.
Oh.
But then it doesn't go off into another 8-3. It goes off into another shape. This like star, 5-petaled star. That's not a regular 5. So it follows off into a petal, which is like located inside of a circle in itself. No, it's a consequence of a circle, but yeah. So I mean, you can find arrangements. So for instance, these 2 stars.
There are no regular pentagons here, right?
No, they're not. No.
There are no regular.
I mean, you can make it so that this angle is like the angle of a regular pentagram. You can do that, but it's a lot of work. And I mean, you can do it. Like for instance, say that you do the circle packing. Then what you do is you can take a pentagram or a pentagon and just really just like put that angle there and just draw it in. You know, I mean, that's a way. Why not? And so yeah, take for instance how these 2 stars, they're not like in this case. In this case, like a point is following another point of the star. In this one, these corners, these lines are not going to touch. You see how they're like.
So there's some extra space between them.
Yes, exactly. And that space is like filled by other shapes. So it's not always the case that it's just a matter of we rotate it and we find another pattern. But it is the case that if we replace a star, we will get another pattern. That is the case. So instead of having the 8-3, we could inscribe the 8-2, which also works. And the 8-2 is a compound because 8 and 2 have a common factor. So if n equals 8, then k is 2, then 8 and 2 have a common factor of 2. So this means that we're going to have 2 systems. So it's going to go 0, 2, 2 plus 2, that's 4, 4 plus 2, that's 6, 6 plus 2, that's 8, which is 0. So it closes. So now we start counting at 1. So 1 plus 2, that's 3, 3 plus 2, that's 5, 5 plus 2, that's 7, 7 plus 2, that's 9, which is mod 8, 1. And this star is the 8-2. So we can replace our 8-3 arrangement to instead have the 8-2 arrangement. And it will work. It will result in another pattern. It's not as interesting, I think, but it is.
The lines of symmetry are not really changing. It's just the details, right?
No, this
Lines
is
of
tangent. This
symmetry are the
is
same.
that point is tangent to both circles. That point is tangent. These are tangent circles, yes. I mean, that's a circle packing. Just circle after circle. It's like one circle, two circle, another circle. They're all the same circles. I'm just
Oh,
drawing
yeah,
it for.
if you rotate it, then that may not be the case.
What do you mean by rotating?
No. I was thinking about something else.
Oh, but you mean
Yeah,
like
I was
rotating
thinking about
because
earlier.
because I'm thinking that when you say
Right.
rotating, it's like I'm taking the circle and kind of like, you know, turning it, like turning this on its center. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that if you do
Yeah,
that,
like you
then
take
the
the star
points.
and you kind of spin it.
I mean, yeah, you can spin it, but then it wouldn't
So,
flow.
so all the circles will spin. So, oh, right. So they won't connect, right? There will
Exactly.
be gaps between them.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting, like as an exercise, to see how much turn it takes for this to get to where it started. Like now, this point is going to be here, this point is going to be here, this point is going to be here, and so on and on and on. But that's the thing, like there's going to be points where those actually find themselves. So, I mean, it would look a little cool in an animation. I think that'd be cool as an animation.
Is it possible to make each of these triangles into a 3D module?
Which triangles? You mean the ones that we're doing like these?
Yeah.
What do you mean by a 3D module?
The way you had shown in your previous video how we connect each of them, more of a 3D type rather than this is more of a solid two plane solid. So if I want to get a depth of it and make into a 3D shape, possible?
So do you consider this to be a 3D shape?
Yeah, I mean yes, but then it's not exactly 3D. It's a 2.5D technically.
Yeah, technically, yes. So if you wanted to do a 3D, here's what you do. You can either, you can take this shape as the base. You can put any point there. Like this is pretty much like my design process for my 3D designs I do. So I take from there and then I go to all the vertices. And then what you have to do next is you got to picture a height. So I do this in AutoCAD. This is me personally. This is a whole lot of sequence of work. And there's many workarounds to this. And yeah, let's just be very careful about wasting time. Not wasting time, but just like spending too much time on this because we gotta move on. But here's how it goes. Let's say that you pretend that from that point, a line is going up in the C plane, right? So now you have a height, right? So now picture that from that height, you go towards another point. You see what I mean? Can you picture that like side?
Yeah.
Right, so now you could do the math, I guess, or use a compass here. But the point is that you start to build on triangles. And so you end up with like what's called a net. So you would have, so you unfold those triangles in a way and you would have like, I'm just gonna write in a random shape. Don't, it's not supposed to be the same shape as that, but just take any shape for instance. And then we have a point there that's on the C plane. So that point is not on the ground. That point is like somewhere around here in the sky, flying, not in the paper, but in the sky. And then from that point, these lines are not going to the center of the paper here. These lines are going up. This is a perspective drawing. This is a top view. So these triangles, when we unfold them onto the plane, they're going to be way bigger than whatever this triangle looks like. Like once we unfold this to the plane, it's going to be a lot bigger. You see what I mean? I mean, really depends on the shape, but this isn't like how I would approach it into 3D. That's one way I would approach it. But that's more like, it's a whole workaround and it's a whole thing. And it's about like turning these as more like a blueprint. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be to actually use this as a folding, like a tessellation, which again, might not be like 3D within this like, thing. But I mean, really depends on how you want to approach it. I mean, there are no rules. God isn't going to come down from heaven and be like, you can't do that. But here's the kind of thing that I do with this. Right? There's like a pedal shape, like it's one of these, but a different angle. I'm just going to see if I can unglue it. So this is like sacrilege for some people, like, oh, you're cutting and gluing. Oh, I don't want to do that. Like, well, all right. That's on you. But yeah, so this is pretty much like, what I do for 3D. This is what it looks like. So these triangles, like once they're together, they don't look the same from perspective. From perspective, it looks smaller. I unfold them and they're a lot bigger. So I can't just take this triangle and put it to the center of the polygon. You see that it goes way over. So this is a challenge when folding things into 3D. However, it is possible. And the way that actually, now that I'm thinking about it, what you could do, make it 3D, is to take away a slice of these, or 2 slices. That doesn't make too much sense in this arrangement because our corners are cut off. But if you had a more resolute arrangement, that you can start to think about having less than 2 pi at any certain point. So that, I think we're not there yet, but let me see. Let's move on to the next exercise before we, yeah. It's a nice little lesson. You guys having fun? You guys enjoying this?
Yeah,
I hope
this is
so.
great.
Right on. So yeah, any other question going on? By the way, did
Ricardo,
I...
yo tengo,
Yeah,
yo
sorry.
tengo una duda.
Ah, perdón, se me fue a hablar en español.
A ver, yo lo del, por ejemplo, lo de 8,3, eso sí lo he entendido bien. Pero, por ejemplo, la diferencia entre el 8,3 con 4 fold pi y el 8,3 con 8 fold pi, ¿esa qué diferencia hay? Es que no acabo de entender bien lo del fold.
Entre el 8.3 y que hicimos, y el, o sea, el que sigue, el 8.3 en el 8 fold circle packing, en el empacamiento de círculos de 8 fold.
Exacto. Sí.
Ok,
Ahí,
entonces...
es que me pierdo con la terminación ese del 8
Sí.
fold.
Mira, te voy a explicar. So Maria is asking about the foldness of the circle packing that I described. Wait a minute, I might use this. So here's what I mean by that. And it's good that you're asking these questions because they're not clear at all. I mean, these things are just like pulling them out of my ass in a way. Entonces vamos a explicarlo. Entonces el 4 fold que estábamos haciendo es como si tuviéramos pues, una cuadrícula y bueno, imagínate que son cuadrados, claro, y que aquí hay un círculo que es tangente ahí y aquí otro es, wow, esto no es un buen dibujo. Más bien así. Aquí un círculo y aquí otro círculo y se va, ¿no? Esto es un como de 4, ¿no? Tiene simetría de 4 este arreglo. El arreglo del otro patrón es más bien como si tuviéramos un octágono aquí y otro octágono acá. Y otro octágono aquí y otro octágono acá. Y otro octágono aquí y otro octágono acá. Y los círculos están en este punto y son tangentes en el punto medio de los octágonos. Entonces hay un círculo aquí, hay un círculo aquí, un círculo aquí, círculo aquí. O sea que toquen la mitad de las paredes. Aquí, ahí, ahí y ahí. Si te fijas, aquí tenemos un diferente arreglo que este. Aquí tenemos ya 8 círculos de un centro. Entonces, por eso digo que es 8 fold, porque no hay palabra en español para lo que es un fold. Fuera de que simetría, quizá debería cambiar un poco ahí las cosas, la nomenclatura. Pero sí, entonces es la razón por la que le digo que este patrón es más 8 fold que 4 fold. Este está como que dentro de un círculo y este está dentro de un octágono. O bueno, la cosa es de que técnicamente esto también es una cuadrícula. ¿Sabes cómo? O sea, también hay, o sea, podemos interpretar el dual de este patrón como una especie de cuadrado. Entonces, técnicamente también este arreglo de círculos es en 4, pero como tiene esta simetría de 8, pues yo me enfoqué en llamarlo así, ¿no? Pero es una de las cosas interesantes entre los duales y todas estas como cosas interesantes. ¿Eso resuelve un poco la duda?
Sí, sí, creo que sí. Es que me liaba con lo de la terminación, porque claro, lo del 8,3 lo entendí perfectamente. Es decir, que el módulo que tú generas luego da resultado la estrella esa de, ¿no? Lo del módulo 8. Pero claro, como empezaban igual, que las dos generan la misma estrella, pero luego la forma es diferente, pues claro, pero claro, si es que si una es cuadrado y el otro no es octógono, evidentemente que va a salir.
Claro, bueno, aquí en en el que estamos, en el que te estoy haciendo el ejemplo ahora, la 8.3 está aquí.
Está ahí, sí. Ya
No
me
está en estas estrellas, o sea, la estrella está en este círculo que toca a todos los chiquitos. Entonces el enfoque realmente, o sea, no, yo personalmente, yo no consigo este círculo, yo consigo los de afuera y el central es una consecuencia de estos.
consecuencia.
Mucha
Sí,
gente,
sí.
de hecho, el error que cometen bastantes es de enfocarse en construir esta primero, no en establecer esta relación. Y es interesante, quizás una cosa occidental como que queremos irnos del centro para afuera, pero más bien el centro lo puedes más bien interpretar como una consecuencia del entorno, ¿no? O sea, tú te arreglas a tu alrededor, pones tu jardín bien y el jardín solito ahí fluye, ¿no? Algo así.
Gracias.
I'll see you now. So the question Maria had right now was related to the foldness. So in the handout, I say that we're working with a certain fold circle packing. So she was asking, it's a very good question because she was saying, well, if it's the same star, if this is an A3, and then you're saying that the next pattern of the eightfold is also A3, what's the difference? And so what the difference is that one of them is just like, you know, just a square grid with circles at the tangent lines of the circle of the squares. And the other has octagons that have circles that are tangent to the midpoints of the edges and centered at the vertices. So that midpoint of the edge is the radius. And so we have like these circles on the octagon that are centered at vertices and are tangent, or like, you know, the point from the vertice to the midpoint of the edge, that's the radius. And so I say that this is an eightfold circle packing, because it sort of has a center and then goes 8 times. And then the 8-3 is located in the big circle inside of it. So the 8-3 would be located inside of this shape. And it's the 8th tangent points to those circles where we would draw the 8-3 in this case. Now, technically, what I was saying was that you could make the case that you could just connect the centers of the octagons and you end up with a square. So why isn't this an eightfold circle packing, a fourfold circle packing? And my logic was like, well, it technically might be, but I'm focusing on like the region. I'm focusing on this region. And that's the thing, like you can interpret things in different ways, but it's sort of like how you frame your thing. So this is the other eightfold that is also in the handouts. So we did a fourfold circle packing. This is the eightfold circle packing. That's just my way of distinguishing between them. There's probably like a better way of distinguishing them, but this is just sort of like the way that I understand them to be. So yeah, there's some of that. And so, you know, look at the pattern and try and find the circles, like try and find them because they're there. Like for instance, this is the one, the other eightfold that we're going to do. Where's the circle? Ah, that's the question. We're going to answer that in a bit. Bueno, todo claro hasta ahorita? Everything good? Any other questions? ¿Otra pregunta? All right, beautiful. So now we're going to move on to the 12-4 in threefold circle packing. It's one of the more basic designs. I love this design. I've done it 1,000 times and I've found many ways of folding it in different arrangements. And, you know, I think that also perhaps for this one, well, no, I'm going to do it on the big because I want it to look good for the little tutorial thing. But I would encourage you, here's my encouragement. If you have a big triangle, cut it up. I'm saying like cut these triangles up, like cut it into this triangle. Make this triangle and get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So get 4 triangles out of this. That's what I would recommend. And then let's fold inside of these triangles, the arrangement, you can fold them on all of them and then sticky tape them together. Or if you're feeling like, you know, if you want up the challenge, try and focus your attention on getting the construction on a single triangle. So approach it as you will, but that's just going to be my suggestion. Entonces yo sugería ahora de que si estás trabajando con un triángulo grande como el mío, yo voy a trabajar en este grande y solamente en ese triángulo, pero los invito a que intenten hacerlo en un triángulo más pequeño para que puedan ver el alcance del patrón. Entonces ya sea de que lo doblen todo hacia este triángulo y en este triángulo hagan su construcción, o que más bien lo corten y corten los otros triángulos también y en cada uno le hagan lo que le vamos a hacer a este y luego con tape, con cinta adhesiva, las juntan de regreso. Y el efecto mecánico que tiene como que la compresión se va a mantener porque las líneas todas van a fluir. Entonces bueno, ya lo dejo así. Yo lo voy a hacer en este grandote para que se vea para el tutorial, pero bueno, yo les invito a que hagan eso. Okay. So first step relates to us getting the first line of reference is just that, just fold this vertex down to the bottom, to the right angle. I say that this is the height. Digo que es la altura. Pero bueno, tomamos la altura y la llevamos a la base. Now we have this triangle. Tenemos este triángulo. Yo lo que hago aquí es, hago una montaña en donde está esta línea. So that line, I just fold that line as a mountain. And then kind of just push it and match it, right? Entonces aquí la montaña esta y me queda algo así. Now in the handout, I kind of like use the color to say that, side A, side B, like one is the back, one is the front kind of thing. Entonces yo en los documentos pongo los colores para distinguir entre los diferentes lados, ¿no? Unos arriba, otros abajo. O sea, uno es un lado y el otro es el otro lado, pero sí, no pasa nada. So now we have this, right? Now here I recommend that if you have this as a mountain, that then this fold be valley, this one that we're going to do, this bisection. Entonces vamos a bisecar el ángulo aquí del pi sobre 6. Entonces pi sobre 6 a la mitad va a ser, entonces sería como un sexto multiplicado por un medio. Va a ser pi sobre 12. Entonces aquí es donde convertimos una esquina de que está en simetría de 6, la convertimos a una esquina que ahora tiene simetría de 12. So we just turned a 6-fold corner into a 12-fold corner. Because we are multiplying, well, technically we're multiplying, we're dividing. It's interesting how this works. Like when you fold something, we say you divide it, but you actually in algebraic terms, you're multiplying, because now you would have, double the amount of divisions. So like that. Now, entonces ahora aquí es donde se pone un poco así medio en el handout. Aquí yo lo que decía, so what I said in the handout was that you would fold this, and now you have this line, which you can just fold on top like that. Entonces podemos así simplemente doblar esta bisección y levantar esto así, listo. Pero hay muchas maneras que lo podemos hacer. So there are many ways that we can do this. Now I'll suggest some of them here. So you can fold this mountain, this valley, and then just extend this like this. Esto es un truco de lo que es un inside reverse fold. This is called an inside reverse fold in origami. And the idea is that, you do a fold, you do a crease, and now you can unfold it and do that crease like that. This is an idea, There's many ways to do this, is my point. Bueno, entonces estamos aquí. Este lo doblamos, right? So we're here on step 5, and we have this little point, and I just take this, and I just match that little bit onto the edge. So I make sure that this little edge, falls on that little edge. So boop, boop, and just that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that is it. That's the whole pattern. And just extend this, and that's it. So simple. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to get another triangle. I'm just going to fold this same triangle, but I'm going to inscribe it on the back. But I'm going to do it, so now I'm going to get the pattern here. Entonces voy a ir por el patrón aquí en esto. No voy a doblar otro, nada más simplemente me voy a concentrar en esta división. So if I'm focusing on this triangle now, and I say that I need to bisect this, and this is the same triangle, then I also have to divide here, won't I? Entonces, como digo que este es mi triángulo en el que me estaba concentrando, bueno, si quiero como adelantarme un poco, puedo también dividir aquí, ¿no? Ya que lo que le pase a este triángulo le va a pasar a este, entonces pues puedo adelantarme. I can just make some forward progress on this, just by dividing this up. Again, some origami play is going to be coming in here. We can fold this down like so. Y un poco de así, cosas de origami donde podemos doblar de este modo así. Esto es opcional. This is so optional, but just as a side note, I guess. I'm going to focus my attention on this triangle. Voy a enfocarme en ese triángulo. En ese triángulo. Voy a repetir el proceso, pero ahora en ese triángulo. De hecho, lo voy a voltear para que no se pierda un poco. I'm going to turn it over just so what we have doesn't get in the way. This triangle. So start with this to the base, then this back, and that line intersects with this one. I can either do it like this. This is what I call the mirror technique. So I have a valley and I have a mountain, or I can make this be a mountain, and I can interpret the difference between them as a mirror and light. Entonces lo que yo llamo la técnica de la luz y el espejo. Puedo tomar un doblez e interpretarlo como luz y otro doblez y tomarlo como un espejo. Y la distinción de ellos es de que uno es valle y el otro es montaña. En este caso, este es un valle y esta línea de aquí es un espejo. Entonces, si hago ese doblez al mismo tiempo así, se hace en 3D y como que se hace así un bultito y este lo copio. O sea, me clavo en la línea de simetría y esto me da una extensión. So this is like a little more of an advanced move, I guess, or intermediate advanced, I guess, but it's still a lot of fun to give it a try. But I'm gonna pretend that that's not available for whatever reason. I'm gonna fold this, that's my line that I needed, right? And so yeah, it was that, and then this little bit, and then this little bit over here. I'm just going to focus on, because I'm seeing that it's not going to be on the edge. So I'm just going to focus on just folding a little bit. Even I have like the line drawn in. So I just have to make sure that that line falls on itself. And it's just a little bit anyway. So yeah, that works. I mean, I can extend this, I guess. And then extend this. So now I can fold everything onto that. And again, like my suggestion is that you actually try and do tapestries with this, like try and make like regular polygons, like try to fold this into a triangle, try and fold this into a hexagon. The reason being that you will see clues. Like when you fold, when you have the folds and you start to put it together, you're gonna be like, huh, that point seems to touch on that point. I wonder if I can construct that point and then get to it, like in order to not do all this work around, in order to just be like, no, what if I start with a hexagon, you know? Entonces yo aquí lo que estoy diciendo es que les recomiendo que se hagan acá unos tapetes o que se hagan acá patrones más locochones, más grandes, con más resolución, ya sea en triángulos o en hexágonos, o cuadrados, o cosas ya combinaciones. Y de ahí ya van a poder también ver, so I'm folding the mechanics, van a poder ver que hay como relaciones o coincidencias, entonces eso te va a dar pistas para que tú digas, ok, voy a empezar con un hexágono y ya sé a qué punto tengo que clavarme, ya sé a qué punto tengo que llegar. Entonces esas pistas te van a dar referencias para que puedas luego construir. So right now I'm just going to be extending these lines. You're going to see that several of them are going to actually like match really nicely with others. Like for instance there, you know what I mean? Like that hits, sorry, that was out of focus. So that hits there, you know, just to say that's an interesting one, like that just hits there, like that's interesting. Yeah, like this one. And matches to that one, matches to that one, this one with that one. You see that that corner also hits on that point. So that's interesting. A lot of coincidences start happening pretty fast. Y yo creo que es útil doblar, marcar los patrones. I think it's useful to actually draw the patterns into this thing. And now we start to actually make this into a sort of a 3D and a half, a 3D effect. This is called a corrugation, by the way. This kind of effect is called a corrugation. In origami, a corrugation is an arrangement of folds that shows the whole piece of paper. Like you can see every aspect, every part of the paper. Nothing's hidden, nothing is tucked away in a fold. You can see everything is just the folds make, this game. Another pattern that I would suggest to you. Entonces, bueno, eso es la explicación de una corrugación es que es un doblez, un patrón doblado en el que puedes ver todo el papel. Eso es la definición de un corrugado, según Robert Lang, y en el que yo estoy de acuerdo con eso. So one of the patterns that I would suggest that you try and like realize, notice that all my valley folds are lines of the pattern. All my lines of pattern here are valley folds. All of them. Not a single one is not a valley fold. And I think that's interesting. That actually holds for all Islamic patterns that I personally have folded. Like whenever I want to make it into a corrugation effect, I just know that all the pattern lines are going to be valleys. I think that's interesting. I think that works really well for consistency. Bueno, entonces todos los dobleces del patrón, si se fijan, son valles. And then we get this mechanic out of this one. Or this little like, solution to it at the end. So my proposal is that you make many of these and actually put them together and then try and like, get to this pretty much. And of course, like there's some, entonces aquí nos falta un poquito de información nomás para poder hacerlo, que no se brinque tanto, o sea, para que no quede tan así, pero igual no se ve mal. So just a matter of just either keeping the lines going to then have sort of something to bounce off of, like something to, some kind of like secondary pattern to use as a reference here for a little island. That's what I call it, a little island on this polygon shape in order to just use that so that it's not so violent, this rise. So it's not so, not so much space is giving to this, but it's cool. I mean, it looks cool as a star even. It's just harder to compress, especially when you have more resolute patterns. So yeah, just a suggestion. Muy bien. ¿Cómo les fue con este? What do you guys think? How did it go? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Nice. So here, any questions? ¿Alguna pregunta aquí? Yeah, sorry, somebody was going to say something. I interrupted. So no questions, no comments? Here's a little suggestion you can do also. You can erase, if you're doing with pencil, erase at the intersections of two lines like this. I guess here too. Technically, it would flow. And then choose which one goes on top. So just do one that goes fully and then the other one will be partial. So this one will go fully and this just like stops beside it, right? So then this goes, if this is going up, then this here is going down. In this case, this is the one that goes on top, this will go below. So then here, this one would be on top, these two will be below. So then this one will be underneath, this one will be on top. So this one will be on top, and these two will be underneath. And here, this is on top, so then this would be on top, and then, yeah, this would be on top, and these would be underneath. Just a little way of making like a weave, no? Fun little weave. Top, boom, top. And just do a little break there, kind of like, does it a little, yeah, a little 3D effect, I guess. You can work on that. Looks kind of nice. Looks like like a knot. Okay, so far we have these two canonical results, the 8-3, and we have here the 12-4, I believe it is. Yeah, this is a 12-4. And 12 and 4 actually have common factors. I'm not gonna draw this one, I'm just gonna write it up. But yeah, so if I say that it's 12-4, esto no lo voy a dibujar, nada más lo voy a escribir, pero digo que es 12-4, so what common factor do these two have? ¿Qué factor en común tienen estos dos números? Pues 4. Entonces 12 entre 4, pues 3. Entonces el denominador lo pongo para afuera. Pues 4, 3. 4-3. So this 12-4 star is also made up of 4 triangles. So it's pretty much saying that this line right there is a triangle. I can even do the little star formula for this one. Mira, es un momento supongo que para aplicar esta fórmula con esta estrella. Let's go ahead and write that. Entonces sería, so it's 12 minus 2 times k. So that's 4 times 2, that's 8. Entonces 4 por 2. Entonces 12 menos 8. No, glad you enjoyed it. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a fun little game to play. I mean, you can interpret these as grids, tessellations as well, but it takes a little bit of time to get to it because you have to build up, especially with these resolution, we're so small that you need more information for it to be a grid, but it can be a tessellation. So I would suggest that you give it a try, Charlotte. But yeah, thank you for joining us. It was great to have you around.
Yeah, thank you. Need to have some dinner. See you.
See you, Charlotte. Have a good day. 12 minus 8. That's 4 pi over 12. That's pi over 3. So it makes sense that we're talking about triangles. That's the internal angle of a triangle, no? So that means that this angle is the angle of an equilateral triangle. You can kind of see it too. I mean, you can kind of see how it, goes off. Yeah. So fun game. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next eightfold. Any other questions before we go into it? Okay. So now we're at the 8-3 eightfold grid. Now for this one, I'm gonna fold my square, but I'm gonna have it be overlapped. Because the thing is that if I were to be using this, the reason why in the handout we have this color distinction is because we may be applying like the pattern in itself to itself, but as you can see, there's like a right and a left side to it, like in this case. It's not like I can take exactly this and just rotate it and have it be fit there. I have to mirror it. So it's almost if I have a left and a right. So that's the thing about these designs, that even though these have the same information, they need to be mirrored in order for it to, properly copy and, arrange. And I think it's a fun game. I think honestly, this is one of my favorite little games to play. Like, how far can you go on a single fold without it being too crazy? So a single fold is usually not bad. Like to have it like this, it's not the end of the world. It will create like some perhaps mistakes along the way, but it's, it could be worse. Okay. So I'm gonna start here like this. Starting by bisecting one corner. Yeah, try and keep an eye out for where the star might be. So now at that point, I come in down. So if I'm using this overlap in this moment and I bring this down, I don't know where I'm going to land because I don't have anything underneath. So what I'm going to have to do is actually fold the other one as well. So I have something to guide me. Or I can just unfold it while I focus on the single triangle. That way, everything else will just be a consequence. I'm going to do that actually. I'm going to fold the square, but I'm going to pretend that all I'm going to do is inside of this triangle. So okay, I'm just making sure that this line falls on itself. That's the idea though. The idea is that if I draw this line in, and I draw it in the back, when I fold this down, the line is going to match to itself. You see that? You can also see, well, in the case for the square, that actually matches to some point in there in the intersection. So yeah, the more information you have, the more references are going to be useful to you. In theory, there's going to be a point where it's just too much. So now from that point, we go up to there. Again, you can find different ways of interpreting this. For instance, I can fold this down like so. In a very origami-like fashion, you know, kind of can go like that. And I can even unfold it. I can refold it like this, fold it down like that. And now I am working with a single triangle. Everything's overlapped now. So like that, now I have this triangle, and now this one comes down. Here I chose to color code the edges just to show that, you know, these two are matching, like this one and that one is matching. Now I unfold it. And I want to bisect this angle because my circle is here. That's my center. So that point right there, that's my circle center. And this is going to be my radius. So when I do this, what am I doing? Anybody have a suggestion to what's happening here? Eso volvió a explicar en español. Bueno, voy a hacer la explicación aquí. Bueno, entonces estaba sucediendo todo este efecto donde estaba básicamente doblando todos y en uno el otro. Aquí ya tengo toda esta información de este lado y lo que estaba diciendo ahora es como ese punto de contacto aquí es el centro de un círculo. Y además, entonces, bueno, mi radio va a ser esto. De ese punto hacia la base del ángulo recto aquí, este es mi radio. Entonces ahora de lo que se trata es de encontrar en dónde el círculo hace contacto con la línea simétrica que va hacia la esquina.
So the point where the corner meets the line is the next point on the circle, right?
Exactly. So where this point matches
The corner of the triangle after the bisector.
So that point right here, this point, if I had a compass and had this as a radius and I spun it, it's going to hit there. So if you have a compass, I guess this would be a time to pull it out. You can like, you know, get this as a radius and then you can like spin it and it's going to be that point exactly. You can see there. Sharmina, thank you so much for being here.
So
Yeah, just a shadow,
is
sorry.
that the center of our circle?
The center of a circle is here. The point of contact of the division. So that's the center and this is the radius.
Right.
Radius, center. And so when we fold that radius over to the line, it's pretty much what a circle is doing. Pretty much. And so we now have this information that's coming in down. So we can copy, we have two options. We can either copy it, which is what I like to do. So I have that and I can simply just take that fold and I can fold it onto the layer underneath. This is one way of doing it where I'm just like very carefully just trying to get exactly that fold almost, or as close to it as I can get. And then what I can do is unfold and just extend this. That's one way of doing it, right? Or you can just fold this down and just bring it up, the whole thing, which is not bad. I mean, but this is like the point of where everybody's different approach or understanding is going to work because nobody thinks the same. We all think different. And so we have to respect and honor that. So it's a good thing to try and keep an open mind when you're doing it and try and like see how you see it, how you figure it out, because it is pretty it's your thing. It's your mind, it's your world. So, you know, you have to keep an open mind. So as much as I say, you know, we're doing this little step by step, if you find a way that, nah, I don't like that step, I'd rather do it this way, I say, go get it. But yeah, so but the advantage to, you know, following these instructions is that I did take the time to kind of like, you know, test different things out and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, so if somebody finds any better, then just like do it, tell me about it. I love to hear it. you find the better solution. What I thought was pretty cool of this, so we're at step 10 pretty much. So I folded mountain this. I did another bisection. You can even see this shape as having mirror symmetry now. By the way, when I was like crafting this, when I had this up and I was like, pushing and pulling and trying to make it work, was that I'm trying to make it so when I do this edge is landing on the edge. Entonces, bueno, perdón, se me fue en español. Entonces, estoy intentando que cuando, lo que está haciendo con esta extensión, o sea, cuando extiendo esta línea que sale aquí, es que cuando se active, yo sé que va a ser perpendicular a esta pared. Entonces, cuando hago este doblez, no solo me esfuerzo en de que estas dos capas, en mi caso, porque estoy haciendo esto con dos capas, no solo lo estoy haciendo para que estén juntas, sino también para que cuando se active el doblez, esta pared caiga sobre sí misma aquí así. Es importante para hacer líneas perpendiculares. Entonces, ahora llevé, si se fijan, esta información pega en la bisección y se dispara para afuera. Eso es lo bello de esto. Eso es lo bello de todas estas como cosas así, las bisecciones y los círculos, es de que si hacemos una bisección en cierto arco y usamos eso como un punto de partida, eso es literal luz, eso es literal un reflejo, una refracción, donde esto se va y sale para acá. ¿Por qué digo que es un reflejo literalmente? Porque si me imagino que esta es la línea de espejo, el ángulo de impacto, o sea, este ángulo aquí, es el mismo ángulo en el que sale. Pega, regresa. So this is how I assimilate these patterns to light behavior, the behavior of light, because this is called a refraction. When a light particle or wave comes in and hits a mirror, it bounces out in the same angle it comes in. And that's exactly what's happening here. Exactly what's happening here. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So to me, these patterns, these Islamic patterns, resemble light and water. Like, I think that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to, because that's the thing that are the most holy, right? You can't have a city or a group of people anywhere without water. And you can't have the spirit without light. I mean, if it is the veneration of light that kind of drives us towards infinity, because that's the nature of light. That's what light does. It just goes off into infinity and it causes awe in us, right? You see a landscape and it's beautifully lit. You see the mountains and they're beautifully lit and it just like catches your eye, no? I did kind of the same sequence of this. I folded this back and I'm using that line as a guide, folding that back. Entonces aquí en el paso 10, doblé en montaña para sacar esta figura simétrica. Hice esta nueva bisección, dejé que se saliera un poco el exceso aquí, como ven. Este es el paso 4, se me hace, y este lo activé. Y ahora activo toda esta línea para que se me vaya a todas estas dos capas que tengo ahí. Y lo he copiado, ¿no? O sea, he hecho el mismo efecto que tenía antes, ahora lo he hecho aquí. Se va para arriba. Y fíjense, ahora tengo también esta, o sea, esta línea estaba hecha, pues, pero ahí está. O sea, este ángulo también con el que pega en esta línea de simetría aquí, este ángulo va a ser el mismo ángulo de este. That's another thing about these patterns, that they, within the stars, these two angles have to be the same on the line of symmetry. So these two angles are the same, these two angles are the same. This angle will be the same to the one on the left of it. Where else we have some symmetry? Yeah, here we have this light behavior, this refraction as well. This light hits here, and now we have these 2 points. We just have to finish off our star sequence. So we have that point of contact. So it's as simple as just having that point and just putting the edge here on the edge. That's 1 point. And then here. Entonces esos dos puntos ahora hago perpendiculares hacia las dos líneas y eso me da la información que me faltaba. Entonces ahora tengo aquí. Y listo. Entonces ahora si abro mi patrón, tengo esta información y ahora se trata de pues, hacer que todas las líneas del patrón sean valles. Entonces voy a hacerlo de este lado. So I'm going to do it now on the other side so that it's not so messy, I guess. And of course, there's going to be like some effect. No, actually, I don't think I showed the 3D effect on this one. So here, let's look at it. So we have this folded up. Do it on this side because this is how I want it to look. What's also beautiful is that if we're using these references of circles, these 2 points are going to touch when we activate the mechanic. You see that? This point is going to touch in this point. Here we can press on this point. Also see that this effect happens as well in this one. We had in the other eightfold. And just a little mountain here, just so that, again, like it tucks. We can have this little be, you know, a little bit of an island there, so that's not so I like to say the word violence. It's not so violent. Now this is just modeling, right? This is just getting it to work for me. Pretty much just like replicating the design, the crafting of the other one, just doing it to this. And I insist, you guys, I insist, like if you do this to one unit and one module and you start to sticky tape them together, they will actually allow you to have several of them on the same line. I'll show you an example I have around here somewhere. I guess I can just do it with this one. I can just cut it in half and just put it back together with the sticky tape just to show that it does work. And there's no reason why it shouldn't, you know, I mean, maybe the sticky tape will get in the way a little bit of the compression, but yeah, those lights. It looks like a little penguin looking thing or something. So now we have our petals, we have our stars, we have our rosette. So it's all working for us right now. This is just nice. So I'm going to cut it up, and just to show you guys the Scotch tape. So while I do this, feel free to ask any questions or comments. How you guys feeling it? Are you guys enjoying this? How you guys doing? Bueno, voy a cortar esto y voy a usar cinta adhesiva para juntarlo, pero siéntense en libertad de hacerme preguntas o decirme algo en lo que además hago este ejemplo. ¿Qué les está pareciendo hasta ahorita? By the way, I'm not going to do this right now, but there is an exercise that you can do using the star angle formula to break down all of the angles that are in this thing. So I'm usually cutting it to put it back together, like, which is almost a waste of time, almost. Noticing that I'm not pasting it on anything. Well, that's because I want to put it on this first, and then I'll put it on the thing. Yeah, it's kind of hard also. Like you got to be sure that this is as straight as you can make it. For instance, there, I kind of caught a fold. Well, whatever. I'll stick with it. Get it? Stick with it. Yeah. Yeah, so just pretend, vamos a pretender de que esto los hice por separado, ¿no? Let's pretend I did them separately. Again, like the idea is that if you do this, you would be able to see, I like use the folds a little bit more to try and find some other references, right? That would be my intention. That would be like my pitch to you. But you can find all sorts of different things to play with this. Take, for instance, something like, well, if I fold it there, I mean, can I find like that's not hitting on the point, so that's not a reference. So that's out of the question. But, you know, the main thing for me is just to see the circles now. So there's a circle that is hitting on these points and this. So as I put this together, I'm going to find that it's like inside of an octagon. Like these circles are around the points of an octagon, pretty much this one. This is this. That little sequence is these parts of two circles right there. That's what we're getting. So 1, 2 circle was off an 8. And then this rosette is a consequence. So then this pattern is pretty famous. It's a very sought after pattern. And it's interesting to me because a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, will do this pattern wrong. Why is it wrong? Well, I think it's because this is maybe like my interpretation of it, but feel free to counter it. This is completely biased, I guess. My thinking is that in the West, we think of the center as the first thing that we construct, right? That's the thing. Like we kind of want the center to be where everything else comes out of. But the truth is, in this case, it's the environment that takes center stage. We focus on what's around the center, and the center is harmonic as a consequence. We don't fix the center, we fix the environment. And then the center is just by itself, it's just going to do its thing. I think that's a lot of the things that are wrong with our Western thinking. Like that's pretty much like the problem with the way we face addiction, for instance. We want to solve the individual. We don't want to solve the environment, right? That's my thinking. Feel free to counter me. I'm open. So we'll put that aside for now. Let's see, where's my other triangle? There it is. Okay, so guys, ready to move on to the last one? How you guys feeling? 20 minutes over. ¿Cómo la andan sintiendo? ¿Qué tal? ¿Listos para el que sigue? ¿El ejercicio que sigue, el último? I'm going to take your silence, of course, as always, as agreeing with me. Excelente. Alrighty, so this one actually starts with a bisection. Este de hecho empieza con una bisección en el centro de 6, porque técnicamente esto es un centro de 6, ahora le hacemos un centro de 12. So we start with the bisection, making the 6-fold or 12-fold, pretty much off the gate. Right out the gate. We start with that, we open it up, and now sort of a similar thing is going to happen in this case. Now, just like the last one, where the bisection kind of hit on the center, this is exactly the same. This is the center. Es igual que el ejercicio pasado donde la bisección de nuestra división llega al centro, idéntico. Esta bisección aquí nos llega a un punto. Entonces, técnicamente esto es una composición de 12 círculos, pero a mi interpretación, lo interpreté como de 6. Todavía, este es mi debate interno, o sea, todavía no estoy seguro por qué lo hice en 6. Yo creo que ahorita van a ver, pero yeah, it's interesting to think that this is a 6-fold circle packing and not a 12-fold circle packing. And the reason why is because I know of another circle packing that is more like 12 than this one is. But that's just, so yeah, that's my distinction, but there's no book for this, so I don't know. probably like, again, a better way to call these things. I'm just playing around with the fold. What's a valley? What's a mountain? In this case, right? What I did was turn this into a mountain because it's easier for me to see. Es más fácil para mí ver las montañas que los valles. Entonces aquí, bueno, la bisección la jugué. Es una montaña, pero puede ser montaña, puede ser valle. Con que sea los dos, no pasa nada. You have that center, same thing. We're going to bisect in order to copy this line. So the whole thing about these 4 designs was that they are pretty similar to each other, just like in different symmetries, in different cases. So yeah, the first ones we did are pretty basic and they are very similar. The way that the circles are packed. I actually didn't go into the circle packing of the first one. The second one we did, but whatever. We'll get to that in a moment. So now this is the line from step 2. And I want to extend that line. Vamos a tener que extender esta línea del segundo paso. Esta línea que tenemos aquí, la queremos copiar. Queremos que de este punto se vaya para allá abajo. Podemos también aprovechar de que sabemos en dónde está el punto y que va a ser una perpendicular. Entonces pudiéramos también simplemente tomar en cuenta el punto y doblar una línea perpendicular aquí. Podemos también aprovechar eso. So we can take advantage of the fact that we know that where the line is going to go through this point, but also that it's going to be a perpendicular line. So we can just, just use the point and there we go. Now I'm going to do it like it's in the handout, but I am going to unfold it and show you a different way of doing it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to fold the full line. I'm just going to fold this little bit of the copy. So I don't want no overlap to get in the way. And just then apply this fold and then extend it. So a lot of the moves I do in 3D are very hard to write in this way that I do instructions. So that's also why it takes so long to make them sometimes, but there's usually a way. So what I like to do for this is more like this. This is kind of like my go-to, more like doing the mirror thing. Yeah, I mean, once you do it, it doesn't shine as well. I mean, I guess it does for the next line. For instance, I can apply that and then kind of by itself, I kind of like see that this is kind of wanting for that, but yeah, again, this is all too much of a kind of, sort of, so we're going to leave it at that. Bueno, aquí he copiado la línea aquí, está hablando como de las diferentes maneras que se pueden interpretar estas cosas y las diferentes formas de hacerlo, etcétera, pero hasta ahorita ya tenemos esta bisección y va para arriba, de nuevo, círculo centrado aquí, entonces vamos a hacer una cosa similar para acá. Uno pensaría, pero realmente no. Interesante. Aquí lo que estoy sugiriendo es de que para copiar esta línea, esto le doblamos, so I'm suggesting in this part that we use this to fold the mirror. So in order to copy this over from in this case, my right, imagining that this side is my right, and this part of the triangle is my left, I have this information. I mean, I'm talking about this line and I'm talking about this line. I want to copy it on the other side of the line. So what do? I fold the line that I want to copy it into and fold them. So I fold this line. You can even see the pencil there pretty thickly on the back. And when I do that, I see that there's also this thick pencil line there. That's the other part of the line, same line. And that folds like that. So now this is the shape in step 6. Es el paso 6, aquí donde pasé la línea que estaba pasando, digamos, del lado derecho al lado izquierdo, le doblo un empalme y puedo ver así como de un lado una parte de la línea y del otro lado puedo ver la otra parte de la línea. Pues es necesario como que voltearlo un poco, ¿no? Y bueno, ya tenemos esto. So we have this now. We have this little excess here that I'm talking about. If we turn it over, you're going to actually see that when we hide this, that this edge is going to just match with this edge. Like this. Which I think is pretty cool. So that's where that hides. And it goes just like exactly on this line as well, which I think is also pretty cool. Just like exactly on that line. So a lot of like very beautiful coincidences. We can even like actually just, instead of unfolding completely, we can just inside reverse. It's like unfold partially, just change one of those lines into a mountain or a valley and just push it in. Entonces aquí podemos hacer el inside reverse si quisiéramos. En lugar de desdoblar todo, pudiéramos simplemente empujar estas líneas así y pues ya tener el efecto 3D así listo para usar, ¿no? O sea, ya, como si nada. Aquí lo único que cambiaría, que falta es, aquí hay que ponerle una montaña aquí en medio porque dijimos que las líneas del patrón tienen que ser valles. Entonces, como si este va a ser valle y este va a ser valle, pues ¿cómo? Entonces hay que ponernos una montañita ahí en medio y listo. So we have it like that now. all we're missing is the 12-fold rosette line that actually goes all the way out. By the way, this is what I call the Cairo variation. Es lo que llamo la variación de Cairo, porque es un patrón de una pantalla que se encuentra en el Louvre, de Cairo del siglo 7 o 6, una cosa así, antiguísima, ¿no? Y tiene esta variación, pero igual pudiéramos sacar otra línea en nuestro círculo y sacar luego otra línea aquí de disparo, así como que semeje esto. So what I'm saying is that we can find a way so that this one is a lot more like this one. This is a classic variation because it just has all the lines connecting. This is a different variation than what I call the classic because it doesn't have this line like this one does. Like this one goes, you know, like this. So it kind of has like this mirror shape that it does. Whereas this one, we're kind of like avoiding folding this back, but we could. I mean, we could just as well fold this back into the edge here and then do that bisection again. I mean, we can do like the same process that we did in order to copy now, like, you know, we can bisect this, right? And we can copy this line so that it goes out on the bisection. You know what I mean? And then we have like a whole new star, and then it's just a matter of hitting there, and then we can just bounce this off of there, like 1, 2, like that. I didn't even have to fold this line that I did. Well, yeah, maybe this one. So this would be the second one, another variation on the thing. So now instead of having a hexagon, this one actually has more. Is it the same line? No, it's not. No, it can't be the same line. No, I'm doing something off. Yeah, this is the hexagon line. Sorry. This is the Cairo variation where it has this hexagon. Yeah, so I'm sorry for confusing you guys, but it's just interesting to think about why this is a variation. Why didn't I say classic variation? Because it is a deviance from the usual sort of circle packing ideal, because this one avoids one junction. So it's also interesting to think about that we're not just doing patterns because circle matches therefore pattern. No. Play with it, you know, see how you feel. Entonces lo que está diciendo es explicando por qué este patrón se llama la variación Cairo. Bueno, aquí lo que estoy haciendo es nada más agregándole el paso. Me adelanté. I'm sorry. I went ahead. I added this line just because it's part of the mechanic. But that's step 12. So I went ahead there. But it doesn't matter because it's sort of located over here. Now what we need to find is where this rosette is. So it turns out, and that just blew my mind, I discovered this yesterday, that the rosette actually just goes like from there to there. Like I can just match this corner to that point. And that's one of them. Well, that's actually, no, that's just like that. And then from here, I can just, what blew my mind for this was that it does hit exactly on this point. So this is a right angle to there. So now we can do this refraction trick and mirror it like this using this line in the back. And what's cool then is that actually when we do this fold, the corner exactly hits on the edge. That blows my mind, dude. Like it just blows my mind how good of a symmetry all these things are, how beautiful it is. And what I love about it is that it jumps out of the usual kind of grid formations, if you will. What I mean by that is that usually you will have grids that are like, you know, just fold a grid of squares, fold a grid of triangles. Now this is a different kind of grid. It's still kind of a grid, but it's, you know, it's a little different. Bueno, entonces aquí lo que está diciendo es como hacemos una línea donde topa, o sea, que cuando llevamos este punto en lugar de la base, pero a donde hace esta intersección con la bisección, resulta que este punto es una pista para traer este aquí abajo y ese va a pegar justamente en donde este punto hace contacto con esta línea. Justamente ahí, o sea, este es exacto. Es una de esas cosas así como que brillantes, ¿no? Que esta gente, que, güey, ¿cómo sabían? Y bueno, una vez doblado ese, usamos la línea que tengo aquí de doblez como referencia y doblo para atrás y luego la punta cae exactamente en la pared, que también es una de esas cosas que yo digo, o sea, ¿cómo sabían? No que cómo sabían, pero o sea, qué bonito, qué coincidencia tan agradable. Entonces aquí lo que hago, what I do next is now having to go from this point over to that point. So here's where I like to add a little more origami to my thing. And this was hard to explain in the handout. So I just said like, just connect the lines, just go from here to there. Yeah, sure. But here's the way you can actually fold it. You can just fold this first and then fold the second, right? So it's almost like just activate this valley like that and just activate the whole mountain like this. Just bring it down to where the fold your missing is and just bring it down and just, and then that's it. And that's the line. So it was hard to explain because it kind of goes into 3D a little bit, but it's a fun little, it's a gimmick, no? It's a fun little technique. I love it. So that one goes here. And now it's here. Entonces, bueno, aquí la táctica fue doblar primero este en valle y luego doblar las líneas de simetría en montaña y solito así como que donde lo vamos doblando, así se viene, se baja y luego aquí nada más lo empalmamos y listo. Y ya hace contacto con el otro punto y ya, ahí muere, ¿no? Y listo, este es nuestro patrón, la variación de Cairo. Este sí lo tengo ya hecho en otro triángulo, este sí lo voy a traer para que vean. I have them up on the wall with a scotch tape, so I have to pull them out. Okay, so same pattern, just same pattern, just in a more resolute triangle. Now the triangle is again here. Instead of the triangle, being the full triangle, the triangle is now located just, I have 4 triangles in this arrangement. And this other one I brought here is pretty much the one that we just did, but now a little more different resolution kind of thing. So the other one was just, let's see how far. This is kind of, yeah, almost like instead of, can you see a difference kind of thing? Like how this is differently mirrored. So in this one, I'm mirroring on this line. This one is mirrored on this line, but this one is mirrored over here. Kind of thing. So yeah, it's a fun thing to play around with. Like, I love it. It's just great fun with all the mechanics and whatnot. And we are pending for the Kepler unit. I have been having a hard time actually like breaking it down into a very basic thing because it's kind of hard to get the rectangle you need. So I don't want it to just be like, oh, print the rectangle and there you go. But we might just end up doing that. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so once you have, for instance, now this one, you could, again, same thing, same deal. You start playing around with the mechanics of it. Things starts to close. All of these have different arrangements and different properties and whatnot, which I think is interesting. But they usually all want just to close off. So these are the Islamic corrugations, or my proposal for the origami corrugation, Islamic corrugation. So let's see how we did, you guys. Let me pull up. Well, first off, let me just write in all of them with a permanent marker, just because, and then I'll put up a screenshot. But that pretty much does it for the lesson today. So I hope you enjoyed it, you guys. Y pues sí, esa es la lección del día de hoy. Ojalá lo hayan disfrutado. Nice. No, and there's many more patterns. I mean, once you, so yeah, my point with all this, like how these were basic, I mean, I'm going to try and, you know, develop more exercises with more patterns and whatnot, but I would invite you to actually look for Islamic patterns and then try and like, you know, use your eyes and try and find like, well, what kind of pattern is that? Is that a triangle pattern? Is that a square pattern? Could I interpret it as what kind of circle packing this is? So for instance, if I pull up this, like, where do you think the circle is? It's not so obvious. It's not so obvious, but the circle is at that point. These star shapes are where the circle is centered. That right there, that's where the circle is. It goes 1, 2, 3, all these points, 1, 2, 3 points are all in the same circumference. So is this one right there a circle? And what might, you know, be a little curveball is that you see a hexagon, you're like, well, of course, the hexagon is where the circle is at, but it isn't. It's here. So you got to follow the symmetry lines. You got to follow the symmetry lines.
It's not the marked point, right? It's the point of intersection of the creases, not
Yeah,
the
that one.
not the point between. Right. Okay. It's not very clear it wasn't very clear in my video. So
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, like to try and like work around circles, but with folding, it's a lot easier to just grasp like, you know, the lines of symmetry because you're kind of like playing around with them, and bisecting is also pretty easy. So a lot of the signs are pretty much like opened up wide with this. And these are for the signs that I consider to be mutual. I consider them to be related somehow. Like these two, well, this one I kind of like, they're more high resolution than I should have perhaps. Well, that's fine. But this one I think is very similar to this one. I think these two share some similarities just as much as I think that these two share some similarities. Because this one has the 12-fold, you know, like this, if you will.
yeah, it looks like almost the same pattern, but on 30 degrees rather than 45.
Exactly. So that it's almost like, you know, where the line hits on, that's the radius, where the line hits, that's the radius.
So you could potentially, instead of just these two angles, you could do odd angles like 10 divisions or something like that.
Well, I mean, yes, technically, but you have to have the triangle match the angles. So the thing is, like,
so
it's
not
interesting.
trivial. It takes some work.
Excuse me?
It'll take some work making it fit together. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that
you can't just replicate it.
I mean, you can be clever and you can use different angles. So here, let me show you an example. I'll put it up on the, I can't share screen while recording because if I share screen while recording, it will kind of change the orientation of this thing. It's weird, but let me see if I can find it real quick here. So I did a while back, like a pattern, one of the patterns we just did, but instead of the angle being the one that we're doing, it was more like a 5-fold angle, like the angle of a pentagram actually. And it kind of like distorts in a strange way. So I can find it.
Oh.
So disordered.
So 5-fold, the way this is 4-fold?
Yeah, maybe fold, the fold is not the right way to explain that, but I kind of like, instead of having this angle be the angle of this star, I changed this angle. Like the line still matched here and bounced off. Like all these conditions were still met. Like the lines of symmetry were still bound, but the angle at which this was happening changed. And it also bounced off at this point. Like it's very important that this is respected. It's very, very important that if you change the angle of this, you still respect the mirrors. So if you change the angle that instead of going like this, now it goes off like this, that's perfectly fine.
It has to reflect. Correct.
It has to reflect there so that it ends up there. But you can change this angle as much as you want. I mean, you can just find any other line, but you have to respect where this is hitting. And so, yeah, it's not always so obvious, the solution. But let me see if I can, here it is. I'll put it up on the chat so you guys can check it out. And yeah, for the people not in the chat, oh, I'm sorry. Here it's in the, yeah, it's in the chat. You should be able to see it now. So the angle for that pattern is the angle of a pentagram. So what I could do is I could like, you know, fold a pentagram, actually like get a pentagram and just use the lines of symmetry to put that angle there. And then I can just use the bounces off and I could do it, you know, it could be done, especially in this minimal triangle approach, because you don't have to focus on the whole big picture. You can just focus on a little area and everything else, just like a little consequence of it. You guys see the thing okay? I mean, can you see my point though? Okay, but yeah, okay, so I was saying how, wait a minute, let me just finish this off. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So yeah, these two patterns seem to be somehow related, and just as these two patterns seem to be related, make them fit on the frame here. Yeah, well, I'll figure it out. Point is, wait a minute. Point is that, so the minimal triangle has to have some relation to the divisions that you do. So there is a version of this, for instance, where instead of this angle being an 8-fold angle, you can actually do this with a 12-fold angle. And we're saying, well, wait a minute, why? You're saying that this is square, but yeah, but the thing is that 12 actually has square angles. I mean, if we go off into the angles of the thing, we can say, for instance, you know, pi over 12, and we kind of just build on it, right? So we can go like 2 pi over 12, and well, this is equal to pi over 6, 3 pi over 12. That is 4, no, that is what? Pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 12. It's pi over 3, and then 5 pi over 12. That's just 5 pi over 12. 6 pi over 12, pi over 2, 7 pi over 12, that's just it. 8 pi over 12, that's 2 pi over 3. 9 pi over 12, that's 3 pi over 4. 10 pi over 12, that's 5 pi over 6. 11 pi over 12, that's just that. And 12 pi over 12, well, that's just pi. So if we do the same thing, but in the 4, well, yeah, we can do it in the 4. Pretty much, it's pretty fast. So I think we have space for it. So this is all the 12. So I'm gonna do it for the 4. So pi over 4, 2 pi over 4 is equal to pi over 2. 3 pi over 4, it's just that. And 4 pi over 4 is just that. So you're gonna see, for instance, this happens here. This happens here. They're mutual. This is, where is it? It's here. And this pi over 4 also happens here. And this, of course, all of them have that. So my point is that for the square and the dodecagon have angles which are similar. I mean, they have the same angles there. So you could, in theory, divide a square into 12-fold, and to just divide this into a 12. And you could like find a pattern of 12 inside of this. I mean, you could, I mean, just in the same way that we did this, because it does have this relationship between. We can even have the case that if we go into the stars, like I showed you before, the 12, 3. So if you do the math for the 12, 3, well, we said that if these have a common factor, we take the denominator out and we have the result of the fraction in. So 12 over 3, that's 4. 3, 4. So there's a star that has 3 squares in the dodecagon. Shashi, thank you so much for being here. God bless. So yeah, we have the 4 and the 12. There's a relationship there. So I guess that my point is that if you want to play around with the different divisions and different circle packs that you can achieve, it's good to try and find common ground. So let's say you wanted to include a 9. Where would you relate a 9 and a 12? Well, in the triangle, of course, because 9 and 12 have a common factor of 3. 3 is the common sort of ground between these two. So it would make sense to then have your minimal triangle of 3, the exact same triangle that we did, be where we're working with 12. Now, but think about it. So if this was 3-fold, and this is 6-fold, and this is 2-fold, no, this is 4-fold actually. Where would you put in your center of 9 and your center of 12? And what I mean by center is like literally a circle that's divided up into different numbers. So I'm saying that where we put the center of 12, is the part that's divided into 12 and the parts divided into 9. We look at the foldness. So if we were to, we can multiply this by 2. So pretty much it's like a bisection, you know? And this 3, we just multiply by 3. We do a trisection. And that's where it works. I mean, that's just like exactly where it's going to be. And then this actually, they will have a mutual point there. And they will also have like a line that's going to be perpendicular to the edge there. And then that's going to be also over here. And that's going to be your radius. And you have a little circle there. Now you're going to have, look, if that circle is there, then you can kind of go like out here, find another point, and you can have like a little partial circle there, a little, just going to be chewed up a little bit. So now you can put a 9-fold row set here. You can put a 12-fold row set over here. And I have a little circle packing that's combining 12 and 9. That's how they did it. I mean, you can do it like this, but so you can even do combinations in the minimal triangles, which is what we're going to look at next week, actually. So next week, we're going to look at the case of combining 16 and 8, 9 and 12, and 12 and 8. So that's also like a little fun game where we can actually bring things together that are not mutually mutual, like 8 and 12. Well, what do they have in common? They have in common the 4. They're not as, you know, they're working in a similar manner to this, but it's like a little more of a jumpy thing because 9 and 12 have so much in common themselves, but 8 and 4 themselves are not so much, but still fun. But yeah. I'm actually going to do this on this side too. No, I shouldn't. So if you want to do like tracing paper also, what you can do is, you know, do a minimal triangle, but you got to do it. You got to write in the pen on both sides in order that you trace one and then you trace the other, because by itself, you can't tile it. You need the mirror. Which is why I did the color coding. Now, there is a case to be made, and that's a little down the line, further down the line, but you could reinterpret these designs as origami twist patterns because they have channels. I mean, that's the main thing about the origami tessellations, or rather the twists, is that you need to have sort of parallel lines that go through certain points almost. So in this case, you have to find like where the channel is sort of focusing on. So like this point would be where this channel is, almost like these two, you know, so that could be a twist. You could twist on there. Ben Parker probably has more to say about this. Ben Parker is like a pro at twisting and all these polygon shapes that appear. I mean, yeah, if you guys are not in the Discord server, sign up to the Discord server because we get together every 2 weeks and we kind of like just go over different things, and it's on the Discord server on the channel Mathematical Folds. And yeah, I mean, we just get together and we talk about mathematics and folds, and it's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people from the internet world that you might recognize are there. Well, mostly Ben Parker, me, and Sarah Brewer is there as well. It's a fun little session. Much recommended.
Can you send a link to the Discord server?
Yeah, on the email. Did you get the email?
Or in the is it the same one that's in the email?
Yeah, in the email there should be like it says Discord invite. You just click on that link and that'll just send you right into the Discord.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's just,
when do you guys meet usually?
every other Friday, every 2 Fridays. And yeah,
Oh, okay.
we all the details are there in the Discord. And you know, feel welcome. It's a fun little game that we play. Oh yeah, but yeah, hope you guys is fun. Yeah, so I'm gonna sign off now. So let me see. I'm not gonna sign off, but I am going to say goodbye on the recording. So people, thank you for being here, recording. We're doing it again, folding session next week after this for the Patreon people on Patreon. We get every week sessions and they go up on the Patreon and whatnot. So we're gonna see how that goes. I hope that this changing between cameras doesn't mess with my ratio, my format, because last video I recorded was weird. But anyway, pleasure being here with you guys. Es un honor estar aquí con ustedes. Gracias, se me olvida hablar en español. Pero bueno, voy a dejar de grabar y vamos a tener aquí una discusión más tranquila y luego ya vamos a despedirnos. Entonces, ahí la dejamos por ahora. Thank you, people. And yeah, see you in next 2 weeks. Expect an email with the thing. So yeah, sign up and thank you for answering the surveys. Anyway, yeah.